Welcome to the Dark Zone Adventure Racing Podcast. This is your host, Brian Gatens. You know, if you've been following along this last week, we've offered 3 episodes centered around the Endless Mountains Adventure Race, which took place up in Vermont, June 21st and 28th. A 7-day race, 500 miles, 35 teams. And the race just ended, I would say, overnight. It's currently Saturday, June 28th at 11 o'clock in the morning. And we want to give our listeners been following along an episode that's a bit of a coda to the race, sort of puts a cap on it. We will be bringing on teams. We will be bringing on other racers over the next few weeks. But we really wanted to give someone listening who's followed along the entire time something to listen to this weekend. So we've drafted 2 excellent volunteers to talk a bit about their experience. These volunteers have both been guests on the Dark Zone before, so they know the podcast, they know the way we do things, and we're delighted to have them here. We have Zoe Freedland and we have Mary Foster. They
Hola.
are sitting, hola, very nice. They're sitting in the dorm room at St. Mike's College, which I believe is the home base for the race. Currently, racers are all in. They're resting. They're drying gear. There's a celebration tonight. But we wanted to get Zoe and Mary on the podcast to talk about the race and the experience and all of that. Zoe, I want to kick it to you first. This is your 3rd time working in Endless Mountains Adventure Race. This is your 3rd time being on the podcast to talk about it. When you think about the experience you've had so far, those other 2 times, and now you're on for a 3rd time, what was different about this race from other Endless Mountains races?
Well, I think my parents thought that I helped a lot more with this one. And I mean, I'm older, so I know a lot more of the racers.
Well, so that's a you thing. That's a you thing. That's how you experience. But what did you think was different about the race as opposed to previous edition?
I mean, it's in a different state. That's different.
What about the length of the race? Do you think that make it 7 days rather than 5? What kind of effect did that have on the racers?
I mean, they were more tired, and I could see my parents were more tired.
Right.
I was more tired.
Right. And so obviously, that was a big difference for the racers was 7 days as compared to 5. Anything else struck you as different?
No. I mean, yeah, but not big things.
Gotcha.
I mean, it's a different race, obviously. Yeah.
Right. Different terrain, different state, all of that.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mary, let's kick it over to you now because you've both been racer and you've been volunteer for these experiences. And so when you look at your experience over the course of the past week and recognizing that the both of you are still kind of in the blender of the race experience, what struck you as being different or even the same about this version of Endless Mountains?
So I raced the 2 previous editions, had planned to race this one, and then at the last minute decided to just switch over to volunteering. I volunteered for a ton of races, usually 30 hours and under. So volunteering at an expedition is definitely an animal of its own. But to Zoe's point, those 2 extra days make a difference. You could see it on everybody. But the rallying of everybody, the teams continuing to boost each other, especially on those 2 extra days. And the volunteers, heavily supporting each other, knowing that the longer length of the race was wearing on everybody. And so we needed that extra positivity. We had a theme this week. It was positive potato.
Yeah, and say a bit about that because
right
I've seen pictures I've heard about on the WhatsApp channel for the volunteers. I heard about it, and Zoe just brandished a potato at the camera. What was the positive potato ethic?
So Keith, one of the kind of main logistics guys, Keith and Greg, Keith had gone on a trip to Oregon, and he had come across a crocheted potato that had a little message on it. And the message was just about being super positive. And we kind of started talking about it at the end of last week, and it kind of became our theme for the week. We had potato power, we had potato positivity, we had potato persuasion. And any time that you could tell things were getting a little heightened or crazy, or whatever, we would just all look at each other or send a message in the group chat and just be like, potato positivity. And it kind of recentered things and gave us all a minute to breathe and be like, it'll be good. It'll be fine. We'll, figure it out and move on.
And to that point, there's the experience of the racers, right? The 30 plus teams that are out there, and what they went through over the course of the week, and then the experience of the volunteers. And we're certainly going to have teams come on where there's a few teams that we want to highlight that we want to bring on, some at the pointy end, some who had a bigger mid-pack and a back of the pack experience. But from a racer, from a volunteer perspective, from what you saw, because you were on the entire race course, you basically traveled the entire course over the time of it. What were your thoughts on the course? And then what let successful teams do well on it?
The course was amazing. I mean, when they first released that they were coming to Vermont, I was like, no, Pennsylvania is so great. But as the days went on, I even said to Brent yesterday or the day before, I was like, I now know why you wanted to come here and showcase this to us. I was like, this is amazing. The course was designed really well. It gave the racers the chance to manage themselves, especially as the length of the course went on, a chance to cut out what they needed to cut out, but still make it to the finish line. Abby and Brent do such an amazing job with these things. And this one was no different. And it from a volunteer standpoint, in that sense, it's always a lot of gear, right? And managing the gear and moving the gear, but it was laid out in a way that it wasn't ever like overly difficult. If that makes sense.
It was just a lot of logistic. I mean, there were. I think Abby said that there were up to almost 40 volunteers, right, or even more than that, and everyone sort of cycled in and cycled out. And Zoe, let me kick it back over to you now as one of those volunteers. You spent a lot of time in transition areas, and the teams had a hard time. You both talked about how the distance of the race really kind of wore on people. It was challenging. Zoe, when you were in a transition area and you were observing and watching teams that were being successful during the race, how were they treating each other? How were they talking to each other?
I mean, I did not see a lot of the top teams, they didn't stick around to chat much. They mostly just kept racing. Right.
They came in, they did their thing, and they were very, very well coordinated. I saw that when I watched 4 Hour Fuel in TA1. They barely spoke to each other when they came off the water. They were in, they were out, and off they went under really challenging conditions, wet, rainy, cold. But Zoe, you were a witness to teams that were more mid-pack, more back of the pack, who were having a really hard time and needed to rally themselves inside the transition areas. What was their communication like? What did you observe there?
One team, I think it was 3 Rock, 2-person mixed gender team, and one of them was having a hard time. I think it was 3 Rock. I'm not sure. One of them was having a tough time, and the other one was trying to help her and helping get all their stuff together. And me and my mom, we went back and we helped them, and we could see, they have a really good, he helped her carry her bag at one point when I was at a gear drop. I saw them just help each other get through it. So I that's a good example. But I mean, a lot of the mid to back of the pack teams kind of did that, I think.
Gotcha. A lot of communication, a lot of positivity, right? They might have pointed to the potato from time to time. The potato might have carried them through, right? All that magic that you see there. And thank you, Zoe. I appreciate you calling out 3 Rock. And I think you're accurate there, by the way. I think that's the team you want to talk about. Mary, talk to us a bit about and we'll talk more about those teams in a second, but you could also, I believe that you're able to share the top 4 result teams. So what are the official results that are going to be coming across regarding the top teams?
We do have the top 4 that we can share, and I think Zoe would like to share that information.
Okay, Zoe. Okay, before you say anything, you got to start with 4. You got to count down.
Okay.
Okay.
So
now, and the reason why we're starting with 4, just so everyone knows, we're starting with 4 is that the results are still being tabulated, but based upon the way you came across, 4, 3, 2, 1 we could share with no problem on the podcast. Go ahead, Zoe.
So something before I just share that is a few of the top teams, both of the bones, but one of the bones, 3 of them finished, but I think they were unofficial because one of them dropped. And then one of the bones teams, all of them dropped. And they weren't like high, but I think they were in the top 10. Silent Honey Badgers, Mike Garrison, he dropped, and they finished. Shelly actually came into my room last night getting something from our fridge while I was sleeping.
If anybody knows Shelly, you're not surprised by that she was going to find something to eat while you were sleeping. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So who was number 4?
So 4 was No Complaints. 3 was Strong Machine. 2 was Vert. I don't know the rest of Pretty Reckless Vert.
Yep.
And then the winner was 4 Hour Fuel or Bend.
Very nice.
Says Bend on their like shirts that they raced in because they did not have time to change the name of it.
And by the way, congratulations to them because this is their 3-peat. If you look at social media, this is their 3rd time winning the Endless Mountain. So really a dominating performance by them, and they led from start to finish. I think they led the entire time, and there was something else to watch. Mary, based on that,
I think they were 3rd as the race started. I think it was Bones Adventure, Bones Canada, and them.
Mm-hmm.
But then they passed Bones Canada. They were switching back with them.
And then Bert snuck up on us at one point.
Yeah.
I woke up from a nap and I was like, when did that happen?
Vert, it's Vert's that was a really good team.
Mm-hmm. Bert's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, Vert had a great team. We're going to pop back to Vert in a second. But Mary, I'm curious about what do you want to share about your observation of 4 Hour Fuel and how they were racing? I think they really offer a lot of experience and education for the aspiring adventurers regarding how they do things.
Yeah, I mean, they're amazing to watch, right? In transition areas and how they have it nailed. They're a well-oiled machine in a transition area. And I think you had mentioned this earlier, or maybe Zoe did. They don't even have to talk to each other sometimes, right? Or when they do, it's like a simple sentence here or there, and the rest of the team like understands. They've got it dialed in, and that's part of how they can get commanding leads. I mean, transition times can eat up hours of a race course if you let it. Mm-hmm. We saw teams come in and hang out for an hour, and then we saw teams come in and hang out for 4 hours. You know, so it's across the board. But yeah, they definitely have a system. They're great to watch in a transition area.
Yeah, they're fun to watch. I spent some time watching them silently to seeing how they did their thing. It really was a clinic, and you almost want to videotape it and show it to aspiring adventure racers. Yeah, and congrats to them, and they deserve every single accolade they get. They consistently, not that anyone can win once, but to win 3 times in a row really speaks to the consistent that they're building. The machine they've built over there is 4 Hour Fuel and Bend, and that whole collective that we're seeing coming out of Bend, Oregon. There's a nice little comment too here. Now that the race is over, we could talk about it. Was that in a pre-race podcast that Alyssa did, where she explained adventure racing for Feisty Triathlon, another podcast. She talked about one of her goals with expedition level adventure racing was to have a very, very high result. And they came in 2nd. And we've covered this story before in other episodes related to the race. But I think it's worth telling here again for those who are just picking up this episode. Mary, can you relay the story about Vert, Pretty Reckless Vert, and their skewer problem in TA1?
So, they had forgotten it, right?
I think they forgot the
skewer. Yeah, but they had forgotten it, not lost it, right?
Yeah,
they never made it. Right, it never made it to the race.
They never made it. Yeah, exactly. So, they took turns. Somebody running with the bike, and the rest riding
Scott's bike.
Yeah, until they got into into a town where bike shop was closed, right?
Bike shop was closed, but
the hardware store was open.
The hardware store was open, and Matt is I think he's like an engineer.
Mm-hmm. That is.
Yeah, what Matt does. It was Matt's birthday, by the way, this week.
Yes.
Yesterday.
And they finished on that. It's a good birthday present. But they Matt had to they got some supplies, and Matt, I think he's like a engineer or something.
That is, yeah.
And he fixed the bike with zip ties and
I don't remember
something
I was
else.
going to say, do you remember what they actually
he did
used?
some sort of
was zip
engineering mechanical magic where he was able to MacGyver a skewer for the purpose of continuing at the race.
And then they came in second.
And they lost like hours. They lost hours during that. And so then once again, it's all about lessons. Like the idea that you just don't stop working. They could have quit. They could have called their race. Instead, they figured it out. Did either was early you on. Observe them in TA1 when that was going down? Did you watch their?
No, I was banished to the island.
Right. Yeah, you were banished. Yeah, for those out there, Mary had to spend 18 hours on an island giving out donuts. A very glamorous volunteer lesson.
Abby had shared the video on our WhatsApp group, so I did see that.
I don't know if you would have wanted to be at TI1 that night.
I was there, and I saw that.
Yeah, I was there.
The cops came.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's just okay. I'll get to that story. So I guess we'll get to that story too. Now that we're recording, so thank you, Zoe, for mentioning the police.
That's a great story.
And so Simon
let's finish the Vert story first. So Vert's story first.
Can I say something funny about Vert?
Yes, you go funny about Vert, and I'll finish the story. Go ahead.
So it's not funny. It's kind of cool. So Matt on Vert, this is only his second expedition race ever.
Right.
I don't know about the
because he did Africa with your parents.
He did Namibia. He did Expedition Africa with my parents, and then this is his second one. So I think it's cool how he did that, and then on his second one he came in second
on his birthday.
Yeah, on his birthday.
Right. It all kind of comes together that way. So for those whose ears perked up when they heard police, let's now tell that story out to the world. So we were at TA1 and we were unloading U-Hauls filled with bins and bike boxes, and we were at the Chittenden Reservoir in Vermont, and we had Rootstock Racing, Brent and Abby had secured full permission to use this property. Let's say that out loud. That permits were given.
We had the permits in the car.
Everything was allowed to use it. It appears that nobody told the overnight crew at the dam we were on who had security cameras. And so they looked up and they saw people unloading what looked like to be TVs inside boxes. And so the state troopers decided to pay a visit to the TA1 to inquire what was going on. It was explained very, very easily. And Simon got a plastic police hat and all was fine. So it worked out great there.
Fine.
It was very nice too. Was that the workers for the energy company, electric company, stopped by and they said hello to us, and they couldn't have been any nicer. So thank you to everybody at Chittenden Reservoir for letting us use that property.
For the rest of the week, we always just moved TVs. We never moved another bike box.
No, they look like TVs. Like that. Also, in Chittenden Reservoir was the TV capital of North America for a few hours there. So we're going to well cover. So the top teams of the race, right? Those were the 4 teams that did really, really well, and we're really happy that they were so successful. But Mary, Zoe, other stories you saw come across the race. There were a lot of teams out there, and we try really hard. We want to throw a lot of sunlight, a lot of spotlight on those teams that are slugging out there in the race course. And of course, we can't list all 30 teams, right? We can't do that. We want to honor their work out there, and all 30 plus teams. We want to honor the work that they did out there. We want to honor their hard work, but we can't list them all. But who jumped out at you as you sit here? You think, who? When I say teams, who pops into your head first?
So many.
All of them.
So many. Yeah. Like I sat at TA5 for a while. I actually closed down TA5.
And which TA was that again? What section was that? That was between what?
That was the end of the long trek. Was that Groton? I think that was in Groton.
I don't know. I have been at the whole race, and I think I've only been to about 2 TAs.
So TA5 was a trek to a bike.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they got on their bikes at TA5, and Megan's team coming in. They were the last team in. Naira.
Yeah.
They came in just smiling, having a good old time. They apologized for us for being the last team and waiting. And we were like, do you see where we're sitting? Do you think we're upset by that? Like, and just, the happiest. And we got to chatting with them. And at that point, they'd still been able to achieve all the Mando points, and they wanted to continue and try and get as many Mando points as they could and stay along that path as much as possible. They were super excited to get up to Craftsberry. They were planning on going to Craftsberry. At that point, J Peak had been made completely optional. So I think they were going to bypass that, which they did end up doing. But just like that, like for them to come in and apologize to us for just hanging out and like, getting to chat with other people, volunteers, and having a good time. Like, I was like, there's no need to apologize. Like, this is exactly what we're here for. It's those teams that need that, like, smiling face when they've been on the trek the longest or been out on the course the longest.
Well, you begin to crave the human interaction. Right.
Yeah.
If you're in a part of the race, and the thing with event racing is you never quite know where you are in the race. Right. There's been races that I've been in where I know for certain that we are the last team by 100 miles, and you get to a TA and there's still a ton of bikes there. Right. Things like that. But you begin to crave some sort of interaction with other people, and therefore you gave that to them at that TA5. They came off that track. They knew they were towards the back, and they were apologizing, and you were like, no, like this is no bother for us. We're happy to be here.
Yeah. I mean, even the same thing, like I distinctly remember Misguided. One of the guys from Misguided, and I apologize. My brain's a little foggy. Cody, maybe?
Mm-hmm. Probably Cody Bush. Okay.
Yeah. Was sitting at the TA table. There was some amendments and course changes and things. So we had some maps drawn out and taped to the table, and he was sitting at the table, and he's got the same foggy brain as everybody else does, right? And so he was like, asking questions, and he was like, I'm sorry if I already asked this. And it's like, it's funny how they think they're a bother to us, right, when all we want to do is be there to support them in any way we can within rules, obviously. But it's just, that side of it is it's like how trying to impress upon them not to apologize to us for anything,
Right. And the fact that they're hyper emotional, and there's a lot going on there, and you're feeling every single emotion, right? You probably saw a lot of those emotions out there, right? Everybody went through every single human emotion.
You know what though? Like there was definitely so many smiles and so much laughter with teams and TAs. I didn't get a chance to get too many people like on the actual course. I spent a lot of time in TAs. There were obviously some tears, like you said, you go through the gamut of emotions, your highs, your lows. You didn't see any fighting though.
No,
really. Like
fighting. I mean,
no, teams were, for the length of the course and the grueling kind of nature of the course.
So that's your question. So what was your experience then with teams? Like can you call the team out in a positive way by the thing you saw them, how they interact with each other?
Okay. Sorry.
That's okay.
I saw a team where one of the guys was having a hard time with his feet at
Is that TA2?
No, it was the paddleboard at Camp Lanakeela.
32, CP 32.
And his teammates were helping him and making sure he was okay, not going off and doing anything else until they knew that he was okay, making sure they knew what to do if he wasn't okay and if he couldn't go on, and making sure,
And so what you saw there was that, and because I think that person ended up coming out of the race because of the condition of their feet, right?
Yes.
And so the team and how far into the race was this? A day, 2 days, 3 days, 4 days?
3 days, 2 days, 3.
Yeah, I think it was 3, the third day.
Yeah.
So think about it for a second. After 72 hours of combined effort, all of that work, for a reason that was really kind of beyond their control, right? Sometimes your feet just fall apart. The team was out of the race and nobody was angry about it. They were there taking care of him.
I mean, they still kept racing, but
Right. But they were going to be unranked, right? Because they left one person stayed behind. Yeah, that speaks to what you see out there on the race course.
Speaking to what you just mentioned, gave me a thought. That same person, after going through this, kind of rallied, came back out on course, helped us out at TAs when he didn't have to, took trash for us to the dumpster, helped us get water when we needed water, supported other racers in ways he was allowed to support other racers as a retired racer. Like, he
could have gone back and laid in his dorm room, right? He could have just
and he
put his
was
feet up.
like hobbling around doing all of these things and things we didn't even have to ask him. Like, if he saw us all like, we need to do this, needs to be done, or that needs to be done, he'd be like, I can do it. Like, just, it was amazing. And Orange Lederhosen, two of them, Derek and I believe the female, dropped out a few days earlier than the rest of the team. That was at CP32 as well. Derek immediately jumped in as a volunteer. Immediately.
I heard that. I saw that. Yeah, I heard. Yep.
That's the guy who
It's super amazing. Spider. Like, didn't even, like, I needed a bunch of water jugs filled so I could take them. I don't remember. I was going TA4, I think. And no questions asked. Just grab the jugs. Started filling them, carrying them to the van. Like, and then he ended up manning the paddle put in, right? It was the paddle put in. I don't remember what TA6? Like, to help Andrea set it up. Like, the racer support that we got from teams that were unable to continue, but wanted to help in some way, like, just was absolutely amazing.
Well, think about it. I know at that point, the person could have said, I'm out of the race and I want to go back to my dorm room, or I want to go someplace else. They have all the choice in the world. But after being knocked out of the race for a pretty challenging medical situation, they then elect to volunteer for the race. Why do people do that? Why do they make that choice?
I think it's because maybe obviously, I hope they don't. Maybe they are happy to not be racing anymore because it's tiring.
That's a good point. They're so happy it's over.
But obviously they're not really excited about not being able to do this race anymore.
Do you think maybe it could be part of, maybe they want to stay connected?
Yeah, like they want to still be a part of the race, even though they can't race anymore.
Gotcha.
It gives them a sense of completion, maybe, because they help see it through.
Yeah.
Right. And also, and to your point, Mary, they stay connected to the community.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Which is a big part of it.
I know if I dropped out of a big race and I might feel like I let my team down a little bit. Mm-hmm. So being able to help them and help with the rest of the race would make that make it feel a lot better.
Diving right back in, it kind of acts to sort of soothe what you're going through as a result of being a retired racer.
Yeah.
So I'll pop quiz you both here a little bit, and you just have to say it out loud, right? You can't think a whole lot about it. If you were giving out a Spirit of Adventure Racing award to a team that they just were just positive and into it and had a great time and just clearly made everybody's experience better, who would you go with?
AR.Watch.
AR.Watch.
One of the guys, I think he got bit by a spider. Mm-hmm. And one of his teammates, I don't know if she also was hurt, but she dropped with him.
She was his wife. I think that's why she opted, to make sure he was okay.
So they volunteered for the rest of the race, and I saw them yesterday at the finish line.
And she actually hopped back in for the last two legs of the race to finish out with the team.
I did not know that.
Okay, good. So AR.Watch, Pam. That was an easy answer.
Easy one. Yeah.
Interesting.
I interacted with them a lot in the TAs. And I love Doug. And I didn't throw their name in there just because I love Doug, but it was an easy answer. Like they just embodied the spirit, but did it in a way that worked for them. and got them to the finish line.
Another one was actually no complaints. Every time I saw them, they were always happy.
Oh my gosh, they're always happy.
Yeah, and that's why they're called no complaints.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I made some jokes about like, are you complaining yet? But like,
Nope.
they weren't.
But there's a really good lesson there because no complaints has that attitude, and they still came inside the top 4.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right. And so
they're always so
it,
positive.
right. And so if you think about it, you could be both. Right. You could be a fast moving, hardworking, dedicated team, and yet still bring a sense of lightness and positivity to the race. Right. You don't have to be the Terminator the entire time. And I'm not saying the other top teams are, but no complaints. That attitude just pours out of them all the time. They're just so grateful and so happy to be there.
Yeah. And I mean, granted, we only see what we see. I'm sure they go through all the same emotions out on the course. But when they're in TA and they're talking to the volunteers and even other racers, they're very respectful. They're very thankful. They're cheer. I mean, even at the bike drop this morning, they were still having a good old time.
I did not see them there, but
I did.
They had the experience. Okay, so that was so you said AR Dot Watch and no complaints path out there. What about the gutsiest team? What about the team that just was having a really, really hard race and they just stuck to it? They didn't back down.
I was gonna say, I don't know. I don't know if I'd say they were having a tough time, but one team that really stuck with me when you asked that was, I believe it Wild Style, the last team that came across the finish line, 209, I believe.
Yep.
Was that Dan?
It was Dan. Yep. Dan and his team. Dan and Glenn, and I apologize, I don't remember who the third one is, but they came to the bike drop and they didn't have to trek to the finish. They could have dropped their bike or they could have kept riding in, but they wanted to do the course and they decided to trek on in and they kept on plugging along. They were another great team. I think, they may have had
another team that, it didn't, they're not specific to any of these, but another team that really stood out to me was We Will Survive.
Oh, Brenda and them.
Yeah.
Brenda and Lewis.
I think they were in the middle of the pack, but they were really I think they were really strong the whole race, and they were always happy when I saw them.
Very consistent.
I painted Jade. I painted his fingernails. And
very nice.
Did you do that in a TA or pre-race?
I did it at Craftsburg.
You did it. You painted him at Craftsburg. What color did you paint him?
Blue.
Is that just what you had, or?
I bought that one that day because I wanted to paint Mike Garrison's fingernails.
Okay.
Which I did.
Now,
do.
was that, by the way, did you charge them, or was that a free volunteer service, or did they have to pay for that?
Free volunteer service.
Wow. Okay. So fingernail painting, courtesy of Zoe, will be at races. We'll keep an eye out for that. I'm going to start growing my fingernails out now for that.
We're going to include that in the next Endless as a TA option.
Exactly.
That's a good idea. I just need to get more followers.
So you've called out a few teams that have jumped out at you, and I gave you categories, right? And and we have to recognize that not every team can be mentioned here. But as you kind of run through your mental Rolodex of teams, if you think about teams that jumped out at you, who else do you want to talk out loud about? Do you want to breathe some oxygen into their experience for the world to know about them?
So you got anything off the top of your head? I'm sure there's a ton.
Lot.
Yeah.
Maybe Strong Machine. Kate, I believe, her tire at the very start of the race, her tire, she got a flat tire, and it took them like multiple hours to fix it. And I remember, they came in third. Like, that's like,
they're on the podium.
That's good. Yeah. That's really good.
Yeah, with a flat tire. And I think there was more to that story too. I think it was like the flat tire, and they couldn't get. There was a whole. Once again, that was another TA1 thing early in the race that they had to figure that out. So the big life lesson there is like, just don't stop working at it, right? You feel like you're over. You feel like those teams could have walked away, and I bet you. And to your point, Mary, this is only stuff that we saw. There were a million things between just those teammates out on the course that we didn't see or experience, but instead they just figured it out themselves.
Oh, probably a ton of stuff that we have no idea. And
there's a lot of volunteers that you could also like.
So there was,
yeah.
We had at least 40 volunteers when we started. So who knows how many we actually ended up with after.
I can go last because a few of them left early.
Yeah, we had some volunteers that started with us at the beginning of the week and then left. And then we had some that came in again towards the end of the week and are still here. And then we had some that were here all week.
Throughout the week, but we didn't see all the time.
And I think a big part of that is the people that volunteer for this experience, and they want to help others, right? That's at the core. But also, to your point before, you were saying how like you build a community, right? You take all those racers, you take all those volunteers, you take the hard work of Brent and Abby, right? Zoe's parents and who do all this work here. They create this traveling community that spends 7 days moving around the state, and everybody kind of moves as a pack. They move together. And now tonight you celebrate that, right? A week ago today you started, 7 days have passed, and now you kind of, the community will then disperse. Tonight, tomorrow, everybody kind of goes home with their experiences, but it bonds you together, right? There's that human glue that happens right there. Let me ask you this question. What did you find to be the most stressful part of the experience for you? When were things they felt like they were going upside down? Because logistically, it's really hard to do all of this. U-Hauls,
you're tired,
bike boxes, you're exhausted, you have the weather, you have all of that. I mean, a storm blew, fence got pushed over, being very tired.
Tired.
When did it get hard for you?
I think when day 3 maybe, when we started, or when Brent and Abby started kind of adjusting the course a little bit.
Was that the really hot day too?
It was the second hot day, and the biggest trek, had taken 4 hour. I still want to call them bend 4 hour, a little longer. So that's when kind of made some changes just to help teams manage the course and things. And that led to a logistical issue for us, because then teams, now that some things were no longer mandatory and some things were optional, and you could bike a little bit more, teams were doing things that maybe we had not thought about. So now we were thinking, oh, we have to get that gear there now. Whereas before they were mid-pack, back of the pack, they're now higher up in the pack because of short course options they decided to do on their own. Right. So that led to some we got to get that gear.
State, right? That was that I noticed on the tracker that a lot of folks, rather than go to the southwest corner of the course and go across the bottom, they went straight, and all of a sudden they fast forward themselves, where they're showing up at TA a lot sooner than expected.
Yeah, I mean it caught we were like, whoa, wait, what's happening here? Do we have their gear? Do we need to get their gear here? How soon can we get their gear here? So it's managing that part of it too, when all of a sudden there's all those course changes and teams are making decisions you would not have expected them to make. Right. We on the back end have to kind of start flipping our switches a little bit, whereas before it was like, oh, we can wait for that U-Haul to get full and then drive it over here. And it's like, no, we need that U-Haul now.
Right. Yeah, that was I was privy to the volunteer WhatsApp group, and there was some text like, we got to go, we need a U-Haul, let's go, people coming in. Because
where's that U-Haul?
Having racers at a TA without their gear, right? Because that's one that you don't want to do. Zoe, when did it get really hard for you? You said very tired, and I know that this is an audio podcast, but as we're talking, your eyes are shutting and your head on the back of that couch a little bit. You're fighting to stay awake. So kudos there, Zoe. Aside from being tired, where did it get really hard for you?
This was little, but yesterday, I was walking a dog, and it was Ozark, Kate, and Jim. I don't know their last name, but Kate and Jim's dog, and he saw another dog, so we started sprinting.
Uh-oh.
And then I fell.
Uh-oh.
Okay. So I know Ozark, and I can see that happening. So sorry about that. That does happen. Ozark, I'm sure, felt shame about that, right? So a dog-related issue was what got you the most.
Yeah.
Definitely. No. I mean, it's funny. It's like You have conversations with teams and the TA, and you're like, "How you guys doing? Have you slept? Do you think you'll sleep here?" It's funny the amount of teams who are like, "Have you slept? How much have you slept?" And the answer is usually,
and you're like, "Oh, I probably slept less than you."
Yeah, the same as you.
Well, it's an endurance event for everybody involved, right? And it's really hard on the race directors. It's really hard on the race staff because there's never a point over the course of the 7 days where everybody is still. There's always somebody moving somewhere on the course.
Something's always moving. And go ahead.
Sorry. I got, and I still have 400,000 bug bites all over me.
Oh, the mosquitoes.
And I also, at the middle of the race, I got terrible sunburn on my shoulders. It hurt so bad. And it was so red. I swear, I thought it was going to
So Zoe, the big lesson for volunteers out there is make sure you take care of your sleep, your sunburn, and your dog walking.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. That's the big lesson.
And your bug spray.
Oh, bug spray. Yes.
So the two of you have been great with your time, but clearly you're up against tiredness. So I want to let you go because I want you to get ready for the celebration tonight. So let's go with some closing thoughts here. You had a chance to spend the 7 days on the course, a chance to have the whole experience. Mary, I want to go to you first. I want Zoe to finish this up. So Mary, as you kind of going from racer to volunteer and having your own kind of race this week, right? Being on the course all the days and being on your island and being in the TAs and all that stuff there. If you want to capture your experience, capture what you saw out there, what do you want to leave the audience with?
It's a community. It's amazing. Being able to come out here and support Abby and Brent for such an amazing feat that they've worked so hard on, and watching them in the midst of behind the scenes chaos, still take the time, like Zoe said, to go and support teams that need pep talks and be there for us 100% and be there for racers at the same time. It's amazing to be able to support them so they can support everybody else. And it was a great experience.
Zoe, finish this up. As you're a 3-time volunteer, you've done a lot of races. I think you're going to be racing Two Rivers with Mary and Anna Stewart.
I think that's a
big announcement. So you're doing the Two Rivers Adventure Race. What is your take on all this? What do you want to leave the audience with?
It's really cool how people come out and do this sport that most people in the world don't even know exists. If you went and said to somebody, "Hey, I've done a 7-day race," they were like, "Oh, you've done one of those running marathon things where you sleep and then you no." I did an adventure race. It's really different, and it's not a traditional sport that goes and does a 3-day soccer tournament or something. It's a 7-day endurance sport with biking and hiking and paddling and camel riding and so and
we need camel riding at the next Endless. Tell your parents.
Yeah. And it's just cool how people can do that and be proud of it. You don't need to do a very traditional soccer, basketball, or football sport to be really strong. I think it's cool how people can come out and do this and commit to it, and
we get to meet so many wonderful people in the process.
Yeah. It's really amazing to see them do that.
Well, there you have it, folks. Another episode of The Dark Zone from the Endless Mountains Adventure Race. That's 4 episodes around Endless Mountains. We've been delighted to bring them all to you. We'll have some new content coming later on in the week, but for today, sit back and relax, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Thanks for listening, and as always, if you keep racing, we'll keep talking.